Hey everybody, Adam from Atlas Gunworks. Talk about sticking mag tubes today. So it doesn't matter who made the tube. Remember that no one's making tubes they all make them the same, I guess I should say. So they take two pieces of stainless, they stamp them out, weld them together. There's lots of problems with that process for precision, and for the most part, it goes in waves or whatever. But there's certainly everyone that makes tubes has turned out bad batches before. So, problem somebody emailed me with today is their STI tubes don't fall out of their gun. So we push the button, nothing happens, right? This one's not too bad. Some of them, when you start to put them in, will stop here. And if they're that bad, this video might not help you. You need some real attention. That might not be don't do that one on your first one. But the other thing to keep in mind here is that the grips vary a bunch in their inside diameter. So I happen to have a PT grip on this prototype gun that is tighter than it should be. They actually did one less pass in there than they should have. So that's good because it allows, if it falls out of this gun, I know it falls out of pretty much every gun on the planet. But this one doesn't quite fall out of there, and I'm going to show you how to tune them. Basically what's happening is the mag is just pinched in there, just this one in this case, very little. So we got to figure out how, right? So first step, put the mag in there, and then wiggle it around, right? So I do have some movement in this one both ways, so that's the hardest to figure out, because sometimes you'll put them in here, and it won't go front to back, and that's where we're at, right? So the really smart way to do this is to get out your Sharpie. If you're going to work on your own guns, you need a couple things in general, but a big fat Sharpie is one. And then two, I like, for your vise, it's really nice to have a set of wood pads and aluminum. And wood, of course, wouldn't work for this. We'd break them doing what we're about to do here, but the aluminum worked great for that. So before I even start marking, I'm just going to take some look here, right? So I see there's some dragging going on. There'll be witness marks. This is metal, so metal's going to show us what's going on. I don't even know. This is an old tube off my bench. I don't even know where this came from or what the total story is. And I'm kind of looking to see what's going on. So I've got some dragging going on here that looks pretty aggressive. So just take your Sharpie and go to town. A little alcohol and the Sharpie comes right off, so no big deal there. The back's always going to have some drag marks, so right off the first time I do this, you won't see me mess with the back. Now the front's going to have some too, but it shouldn't be extensive. Now this one too's got some burrs in it, this tube, so I'll put this one on the wheel before it's all done. I don't think anything's going on this side, but I'm just, worst case scenario, more information's better than less. So the problem areas for these tend to be front to back, in this zone, from here to here, let's say. And then often they drag up in here on these spots. And remember, these things hit the ground. When you get this hits the ground on a classifier with 10, 12 rounds or better in it, or 18, whatever it is, and this gets bent in or out, it's going to cause a problem. It's all relative. So stick it in, pull it out, stick it in, pull it out. It does work better to do this with the way it would run. And it won't take much. We'll start to see. So we get some pretty heavy dragging right here. Not so bad up top. I thought we'd see more here. We're not really seeing much there. So most of the time it's this front to back scenario, and it does matter where. Sometimes this top's bowed out or wherever, but this is the solution. It's scary. You make sure you got something soft on, or aluminum works a lot better, but I'm gonna do it right here, just barely turn it. These are soft, and then I know it's a little lower too, so I'm gonna get it just a tad lower. So now if you wiggle it a little bit, it comes out, but it's still a little sticky. Now, if you do that too much, and this thing goes wide, and you probably got one or two chances to bring it back going this way, and then the tube will start to come out of where it needs to have the form and stuff, and you'll be screwed. It'll be over. I've wrecked a tube or two. I've got some dry fire tubes, or dry fire only. But let's just mark up where we're at here. See what we're getting. Now, if you do this when this is still a little wet, which isn't necessarily ideal, but sometimes it'll give you the witness marks up in the gun. That helps too. Alright, so see, just that. I don't like that. I want it to no matter what. Now, make sure when you're doing this that you check all your guns, because the grip dimensions, plastic, metal, no matter what you're running, we could have two of these made, within 2 months of each other, and they'll be a little bit different. So check every one. So I'm getting a little bit of drag in there, but that might just be the way it's coming in. And I still see a little bit here and almost nothing up top. So now I'm gonna pinch this tube, but a little further down than I had been. Now I'm trying to keep it pretty flat because that's generally, straight through here. That's generally what works the best. Yeah. This is good. I think we went a little too far. So when you squeeze this, it's going to start pinching up in here too. It's going to start bowing this thing out. So it doesn't necessarily bow it out evenly across. And it looks like we are. It looks like we went a little too wide. Now I'm doing the whole thing, but sometimes if you got one spot, you can just spot pinch it, like, kind of crooked like that or something. You don't need to, or get a different set of soft pads here. We're still close here, but this is the game you're going to play. Just back and forth game I'm going to play. So I'm getting some heavy dragging right here, but I'm also dragging on that side, which I wasn't before. So because I just went this way and it got worse, I'm going to use that as an indicator is this dragging is less of a problem than that dragging. So this is going to be like next to nothing. Like just a little, It's easier to go back than forward, so we're a little closer here again. So back to the mark. This is awful. This is like the worst. If you want to wreck me a day, make me do this all day. And this is something you might just have to do once a year to a tube or two. But constantly checking the tubes helps, because the tubes they do, for stamped out stainless steel, that gets heat treated, dropping them on the ground with that kind of weight in them. Of course now it wants to be, there you go. I'm still getting a little bit. Now, this is super risky, but I think this is what's got to happen with this one. This one had a label on it, bad tube, so I know that this one was one somebody had messed with before and couldn't get it. But I think it's just this rib. So again, super risky, but I'm just going to pinch that rib. So see, this area is not, now there's no real good way without a set made for them, and I don't have one, and I'm sure most of the shooters don't, to put that on there. And if this whole corner is kind of bulged out, to get it to go back just the way it was. So we just got to keep playing. It'll often, messing with them, you'll get them there. So where are we at? This is some pretty good dragging on this side, but it's coming down some. And I still got a whole bunch in the front here. So you see, this is the nasty part about the game. You keep going back and forth, and then eventually the tubes just so out of whack. Now I'm more worried about this bottom part than the top. So we're trying to just work that spot. Man, that's close. Now when you put them in and you start having some success, I often just go right back to and you'll know when you go too far because it'll stick on the sides, but gosh, I can just tell that's the way it's supposed to. It's so close. It's such a fraction for these things to go or not go. So back to our marker. This one might be a good one for you guys to see, because I think we're going to have to do all the different levels on this one. So a lot of them, the front to back pinching will get you there. So I don't think we're going to pinch this tube and change much at this point. So now the fun part is going to be doing this the old-fashioned way. The old-fashioned way requires a hammer. Always better to use not a super abrasive hammer. We're going to use a brass hammer today. So I'm just going to tap on the spots that are rubbing. Get a little flat. And again, a little bit is the way to go here. You do too much, you're screwed. You're right on that. Let's see if that made any difference. Now sometimes you'll have a hump or this isn't flat or whatever, and that's... Now when you tap on them, even with that brass hammer, you chew them up a little bit. So again, I'll put this in a wheel after, and we'll clean them up. Well, it doesn't look like much change there. Now the other thing that I'm doing here is I'm roughing up leaving that a little scuffed up, so that's not helping anything. You can even feel it with the marker how scuffed up I just made all that. So we might have to smooth it out before we go too far here. Keep in mind that marker, when it's a little bit wet, works a little bit like a lubricant, and it can get stuff to drop when it wouldn't normally. So I think we're super close. See, I'm getting a little dragging on that corner. So I'm going to go a little there, a little there, a little there. And then I'm going to put this on the front of this on the wheels and clean it up. So you won't see me do that, but I just use a 3M, super fine wheel and go super light, and it'll just clean all that up. So hold on 1 second. Alright, so super quick on the wheel there. Be careful with the wheels. It doesn't take much to wreck them. And I think we're there. So, if it wasn't going in this gun, I'd tell you it's good. This gun is picky. So there's another trick, right? So I got it in there, I push the button, comes out, right? I push the button, hold the button down, tap it, and see if that's what lets it go. So the front to back's not. So it's probably right in here that we're dragging a little. And there's so much blue now in my gun that you're seeing where it's striping on there. This time I'm going to use the soft side. See, this corner's just coming out a little too much for this guy. There it is. Oh, get a little lucky here. Nope. Thought we were there. That one might have been over inserted. So it's, oh, maybe it wasn't in all the way. What's going on here? Still a little bit. A little bit on this front too. Now remember, I got some blue in the gun, so I'll want to, before a match or something, Hornady One Shot cleaner will gun cleaner and lube and oil or whatever will take most of that out. So you just one shot it, get all, you don't want that stuff gets tacky after it gets dirty. I think this one's just about there. I'm just going to do one last tap here. And you're gonna see, again, I'm going to jump over to the wheel and I'll clean this up and then we'll do one more test. I'll probably turn the camera off here for a second while I do the wheel. Maybe not. I would tell you that mag's going to work in there now. Now see, that's not coming down because it's not sitting on the mag catch. If you had a spring in here, it would give it a little downward pressure, a spring or a bullet. So that's okay. Just make sure if it's on that, it'll come. Right? It's not sitting on that. So anything like that's okay. See, every now and then we're still a little. Now, just for comparison. This Gina's gun, she's getting a new slide, and see, on Gina's gun, this thing all day long, right? Doesn't matter. Her grip, same grip, made pretty similar times, just barely different dimensions inside. So, again, if it works in this gun, it'll work in any gun. So I think we're gold. This is last resort. You start hitting these things with that, and it does not, it wouldn't take much for me to flatten that out, and there'd be no way to bring that round back, this front round here. And generally, you got to be able to look down the tubes, and they got to look pretty straight. The straight panels need to be straight. If there's humps in them, if you beat that into a thing and the bullets aren't riding, the way they're supposed to be on these, their bullets are supposed to contact in here. On the 40 cal on the left side, and then they're kind of flat on the right side. But if that had a hump or something in it, that's probably all it would take to get a dirty mag to not work. So anyway, I hope this helps a bunch of guys get your mags drop free. The system I use is pretty simple. Match mags get a period of time on them. Probably depends on how robust they are. So the SV tubes are number one. It looks like the STI new tubes are going to be, as of 2017, are going to be the second most robust. Then it's MBX tubes, then it's old STI tubes for how tough they are. And so what we care about there is, how often do you, like on an SV, you'd adjust the feed lips a lot less than you would on an old style STI, the two ends of the spectrum, because they're a lot harder, a lot stiffer, better metal, thicker. But they cost more, and when they're stiffer, they're more apt to crack. So what happens, what you'll see, what wrecks the mags typically, is these are welded right down the middle, front and back. So it's two pieces just welded together. And what you'll see is there'll be a crack. Usually it starts right here. And once that happens, we've definitely welded a couple up, but once that happens, it's the beginning of the end. So run the mags hard. Your best mags are the ones you trust the most. I always have one or two in my bag that are my starter mags at matches and stuff, and I tend to beat on those a little less. There's two ways to do the mag system, really. There's probably three, but in my mind, there's two ways. Run a set of 4, 5, 6 mags, whatever, and you practice with them and you shoot matches with them, and that's just your mag set. That's how I do it. That's the poor man way, I guess. And then the better way, probably, at least in theory, is to own a whole set of dry fire mags. You should have that anyway, even the poor man way. And then have a set of practice mags and then a set of match mags. And as soon as one spring or fall or anything you have a problem with a mag, like let's say you have a spring start to quit in one of your practice mags, change all your practice mag springs. If you're having a problem with a match mag, same thing, blah, blah, blah. And then in the match mag set, let's say you have a set of 4 match mags that are your primary. Have one or two that you run most of the time that you trust. Like that's the mag that works all the time or whatever. There's another way to do it. This is my favorite way because I'm super lazy, I guess, at matches. I like to go to the match with like 6 or 7, really ideally 8 mags. That's my set. I practice, or that's the way I typically do it. I just have that one set. I know I trust all the mags in that set. I work them all in practice, blah, blah, blah. And then I load them all up. And when they hit the ground at the match, that mag's done. I'll reuse a mag that doesn't hit the ground. Anything I take out of the gun's okay. But if it hits the ground, that mag gets unloaded, or I don't even unload them. That mag sits in the bottom of my bag. I never use it again. So if something changed at the match when it hit the ground, good to go. Open people have a much better shot at that because it's way easier. You don't need as many mags. The limited guys, you probably got to have like 4 extra. I think you need 6, 7, 8 at most of the big matches to get through it with never picking up a thing. But it saves you from cleaning the mags. It saves you. People get caught on this a lot. They put a dirty ammo, so the mag hit the ground, it's in a sand pit or whatever, you go put the ammo back in the box and then you reload that and that ammo's got sand and grit and shit all over it. That's no good. So a lot of times that ammo is what gets you. And wiping all those things off when you're trying to shoot a match and go stage to stage. We often now shoot with the staff on the staff day, so you're undermanned and you're running around and jamming bullets in just trying to get through the day. So that helps a lot. It's really nice to come in the morning, load all your mags, be done with it for the day, and you're only topping off mags that fell out of your gun. So that's what you'll see me do at most of the matches. Other than that, there's your tube tuning. Go slow, take your time. If it took you 3 days to do this, messing around for 15 minutes here and there, that's way better than getting frustrated and start pounding on one and wrecking a tube, because it's so easy to wreck the tubes. And then when the mags do crack and they don't work so great, make them your dry fire mags. I got a set of dry fire mags that probably wouldn't work in any gun ever, but I don't care. They just hit the ground. I don't feel guilty when they hit the ground. Smash them up. Sometimes they don't start to fit in the gun so good, and I just cut the top off or whatever I got to do it's dry fire mag, right? It's got to have some weight in it, and it's got to fall out of the gun. That's all I care about. Hopefully that was helpful. John, you inspired this one, so I hope you can get some of those STI mags to fall free. And we'll talk to you guys soon or see you on the range.